Hello, and thank you for joining me for the Getting Out of the Paycheck to Paycheck Trap webinar. We're going to talk about improving cash flow and managing debt. And I'd just like to start with a quote: "We must consult our means rather than our wishes," is what George Washington said. And this is really tricky to do, right? At every turn, there are more things we can buy and more things that we can do. And it's really important to make sure that we're living within our means. In my business, I've been doing this for 20 years, and the folks that are most successful aren't the people that make the most money. They're the people that live within their means and save money. So it's important to kind of take action with that, and we're going to talk about that more today. We're going to talk about cash flow, expenses, and debt management. So when you're looking at your cash flow, that's really looking at the money that comes in against the money that goes out. So what we're going to do is take a look at your income. So what are you making? What's your take-home pay from your paycheck? Okay, and then take a look at adding up all your expenses that you have. And then we're going to see about your cash flow. So let's dig into these a little bit more. And then Benjamin Franklin had a lot of really good quotes about finances. A penny saved is a penny earned, and these types of things. And this one's I really like: beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. Okay, so we want to make sure we're keeping on top of everything, especially those little bills that keep coming automatically and hitting your credit card every single month. We want to make sure we're utilizing those. $10, $20, $50 adds up over time quite a bit if you're not paying attention. So the first thing is just to take a look at your income. So what is your income after you pay taxes? That's the money that gets deposited into your bank account. If you have rental income, business income, dividends. So a good place to start is last year's tax return, or to make it easy, you can just take your household income. So whether that's yours or you and your spouse, and just put down how much comes in after you've paid taxes, after you've maybe put money into healthcare and into your 401k, what's coming in for you to live on for your household every single month. Okay. And then any of these other things that you're seeing as well, any kind of payments and what have you. Once you have that number, then you're going to take a look at your expenses. So an easy way to do this now is to go to your bank online, if you can, and basically download the last 3 months worth of expenses. Go to your credit card, wherever you charge money and everything else. If you use your bank and you can go online, that would show checks, cash withdrawals, et cetera, and the credit card would show everything, a lot of other expenses as well. And then make sure you're showing what cash you are spending if you take it out of the ATM or what have you. But we want to take a look at least 3 months worth of bills and annual expenses. Okay, if you want a spreadsheet, just let me know. Okay, so these are just some ideas of what your expenses could be: alphabetical, alimony, association dues, fuel, clothing, dining, food, home furnishings, medical insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of times, if you're just thinking about your expenses, you might forget a bunch of this stuff. And it's really important to get this down as much as you can. So, and then just as comparison's sake, this actually shows from 2017 what most people spend their money on. So if you bring in $75,000 a year, which is average in America, you'll see 12% goes to food, 33% goes to housing, 15.9% goes to transportation. Okay, so this is, and then we have 8% to healthcare. So those are the major expenses. Cash contributions, and then personal insurance, retirement plans, 11.3%. Well, Social Security is, over 7% of that, but just personal savings. Okay, so it kind of gives you a sense of where you would be and what your monthly expenses would be. And I actually have, with these percentages, you can see based on what you make, how much you may spend dollar-wise on each of those things a year to kind of help budget. If you want to do it that way, I'm happy to help with that. So we talk about needs. What's really important is to see what you really, really need, because eventually, if you do want to retire, it's good to be able to project out and see what kind of shape that you're in. You can also do this type of analysis every year. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? How can I improve what's going on with my finances? So what are your needs? This is like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So what people say is that if you make more than $75,000 a year, supposedly you're not any happier, because basically all of these two things: safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health, property, air, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, all that stuff is kind of taken care of. Okay, so once you have that set, you're in pretty good shape. So you want to make sure that your needs are covered and they can be covered in the future. The things that are extras, you need to be careful of. Okay, so if you're tight with your money, you may not want to buy that Coach purse or what have you. So it's just really taking a look at what you have and what's really important. So to get to your cash flow, you just take your annual income minus your annual expenses, and then you have your cash flow. Okay, so if your cash flow is negative, you really want to go back and take a look and see what you have every month and really cut expenses wherever you can. Okay, just buy things that you need. Maybe take a certain money out of the ATM every week, and that's all the money you have to spend. Okay, credit cards, any kind of cards, there's been studies that show you spend 30 to 40% more a lot of times by using cards, because it doesn't really seem like real money. I've had a lot of experience. Credit cards can be a real dark hole to get into. And I remember talking to a really good friend of mine who is an attorney, a smart woman, and she had accumulated about $60,000 in credit card debt. And she was saying to me, why do they let me borrow all that money? It's very easy to kind of get into the spending trance and to keep going. You need to kind of take back control over where your money's going. Okay, so review your income, see how much you have every month, cut your expenses back into your spending money. So if you only have 400 extra bucks a month or whatever it is, let's do $100 a week. And then you can also organize. So another way to do it is to have accounts and envelopes for everything. I mean, I remember when I was first starting out in business, and I basically thought, hey, you know what? I'm out of school. I'm a hard worker. I'm going to make a lot of money, so it doesn't matter. And I was spending on the credit card. I got $6,000 to $7,000 of debt very quickly. And I only was making like $6 an hour, maybe $7 an hour at the time. And I learned a big lesson. It's a lot when you're making a little bit of money. It's really hard to pay back, a lot in credit cards. So every time I had an extra $25 or $50, I was sending it to the credit card company, because I knew that if I wasn't paying interest on even $50, that would help. Because we'll talk about credit cards in a minute, but it's a lot of times it's 20% a year. So out of your $50, you're paying $10. So I'm, every time I'm saving $50, I'm, cutting down my interest by $1, every month, $12 a year, whatever. So anyway, there's also ways you maybe take a second job, create more income, and then eventually you definitely want to have emergency planning. It's really tricky if you're living paycheck to paycheck, and let's say you need new tires, or your roof is leaking, or your furnace goes. It just makes it very difficult when bigger expenses come up. Okay, so we really want to bear down if your cash flow is negative. And again, I'll tell you, in working with folks from every income level, it does not matter how much you make. I've seen people live very comfortably on not a lot of money. You can do it. It just takes discipline. So when we look at financial planning, this is, we really want to make sure that these are covered. And then eventually, as you make more money and kind of move up, then we can really fund some other things. Okay, so but this is really where we need to start. And some of these, like long-term care, is not necessarily essential. Initially, if you have kids, life insurance is pretty good. But, we just want to make sure our basic needs are covered. Emergency savings account, retirement planning, there's kind of a progression that you can do that helps you to kind of get where you want to be. If your cash flow is positive, congratulations. You're living within your means, which is fantastic. And again, just cut areas where you have expense, why not, right? And again, same thing, Benjamin Franklin, if you know how to spend less than you get, you have the philosopher's stone. Okay, so when you look at debt, really, how much debt can you afford? Okay. So there is good debt versus bad debt. So bad debt is just, credit cards, high in interest. Generally, you're buying something that you really don't need, that might not retain its value over time. I mean, have you ever gotten your bill at the end of the month and said, wow, what did I do? Where did all that money go? It could be you're buying stuff, just not really paying attention. Okay. It's kind of like sometimes when I go home at night and I'm hungry, but as soon as I get home, I start eating and not really paying attention to what I'm eating. And then I've overeaten because it's just kind of, I'm just not really paying attention. Spending can be similar. So also buying the latest trendy gadgets or splurging on designer clothes can hurt you. Good debt would be more like you're buying a house, you're building some kind of equity over time. Generally, it can appreciate in value. Going back to school, investing in yourself is really important. It's the most important investment you could ever make. So that's always encouraged. But or to buy a car, there's certain things that you do need. So those are good. So when's it okay to take on debt for a purchase? So if you're going to buy something that's going to grow in value, hopefully if you buy a house, it will grow in value. You also want to be able to handle the debt payments easily. I remember when my husband and I, we've lived in the same house for 20 years, and we went to buy a house. They told us that we could afford like 2 times the amount of the value of the house that we were really looking at. And there's no way that I wanted to get myself into that pickle. You get yourself in trouble and then you're kind of like, house poor. So you don't have a lot of other money because you have so much money going to your mortgage every month. We need to have fun. We want to have a good time. And so you just got to be careful, especially on the really big expenses, because you can kind of pigeonhole yourself in. So if you're already saving regularly for retirement, saving and building wealth, it's kind of like building muscles. It's just little by little, it grows and grows and grows. Muscles don't get that big. So hopefully your retirement plan gets bigger, but also you don't want to overpay for what you're buying, and you want to be able to get a competitive interest rate. Okay. And again, we really want to manage credit card debt wisely. This can be really hard to get out of. The rates are so high that it's difficult to dig out. So if you have $10,000 in credit card debt, you're paying like $2,000 in interest to the banks. So they're getting that money. They're getting your money. So using credit cards, you do not want to use a card to make ends meet. Figure it out. Cut your expenses somehow. You really don't want to have more than 4 cards at one time. I have a credit card for personal, a credit card for business. They get paid off pretty much every single month. You want to make sure you research options. So if you do have credit card debt, maybe going to lower interest payment cards and things like that would help in the interim to pay off. You don't want to exceed 25% of your credit line. So make sure you still have a lot left there. And then also, if you're in debt, you don't want to use the excuse of, I just want to get more points. The points are good, but if you're paying thousands of dollars a year in interest, what good are the points? You could have bought that for yourself if you weren't in debt. So, and then also making large purchases on a credit card can be tough to pay off. So develop good habits. So review your statements regularly, make sure you're on track. Take a look at the recurring payments, because everyone's trying to get into recurring payments. They want to get their cash flow up as well. So you want to pay your bill on time, pay your future balance off every month so you're not paying interest. If you do have debt, just pay off, get an extra $50, send it in, extra $100, send it in. Just that needs to be a priority to get that paid off. And if you focus on paying that off, you will get it paid off. When I was making that paltry amount of money, I was able to pay off my debt in not too long of a time because it was such a focus for me to do. If you can take advantage of rewards programs if you're not paying more in interest than what the rewards programs are providing. And then also just make sure you're checking everything, because you want to keep yourself safe from credit card fraud. There's 2 different ways to pay off credit cards. The first way is a snowball method, and you can pay off the one with the lowest balance first. So if you do have 4 credit cards, let's say one has like $500 on it and the others are higher, they have more, $1,000, $2,000, whatever, pay the $500 off first, then put all your money toward the next one that's big and go for that. You can kind of build momentum, and it can help you to kind of get out of this over time. The other way is the Avalanche method, and that's really paying off the card with the highest rate first. So the card that's costing you the most rate-wise. So when you look at your statement, you'll say, am I paying 18.99%? Am I paying 24%? Am I paying 15.99% on my credit cards? Okay. Take a look at which one you're paying the most on, not the most payments every month. It's like, which rate is the highest? And you pay that one off first, because then you're kind of digging into the interest a little bit more. And then you can pay down debt a little bit faster. But, have a strategy. If you have questions, you can always call, and I'm happy to help out. We also want to make sure you're looking at your credit score to make sure it's in good shape. So if you do need to borrow money, so Experian, TransUnion, Equifax are 3 places that you can do that. If you're concerned about identity theft, then you can also have them freeze your credit so that your credit is frozen and no one can really ping you or get into that without you calling up and releasing your credit. Okay, so the score is based on your payment history. Are you making payments, recurring payments? How much debt do you have outstanding? How much credit do you have outstanding? So you look at like how much credit, how much can you borrow? The different credit types, the length of your credit history, and credit applications history. So I actually have a client friend who pays cash for everything, which I think is actually fantastic. Pays cash for everything. The only problem was that when he wanted to buy a house, he then had to go and buy stuff, which is kind of counterintuitive, but that's the way the world works, right? So he had to go and I think he bought a car. He bought a few things on credit so he could build up his credit. So his rating was higher. So he went to borrow money. He could borrow money to buy a house. Okay. So everybody's a little bit different. We just got to make sure that you're in good shape so that you can really achieve your financial goals over time. So this just takes time and discipline, right? So sometimes it can take a few years. It's really sitting down and really thinking about it and making it a priority, which I did. So I was not in financial services when I came out of school. I was an economics minor and an English major. I was actually at a book publishing company when I came out of school, and I knew finances, but I really wasn't that disciplined. Over time, I got disciplined, especially when I had this great early lesson when I dug myself into a hole and I had like a third of my annual income was in credit card debt, which wasn't good. So if you need help with budgeting or personal one-on-one planning, definitely work with a financial advisor that or you can call us and we can help you out. You just want to match your goals with the person and just get some education about how it can be better. Okay. So this is everything we talked about is really just educational, informational. Everybody is different. So what I've said here will apply to some and to others it won't. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know about that. Everything is just very general educational information. And I want to thank you for your attention to this webinar. And if you want to get in touch with us, this is the contact information. And I will take some questions now.